Well, hello, my awesome APE students. This is Dr. Griffith, ready to give you a lecture for Unit 5.12, Introduction to Sustainability, which is kind of funny to call it Introduction to Sustainability because we've been talking about sustainability this whole time. This is going to give you a very specific term called maximum sustainable yield that's really important to understand. So it's not a super long lecture. It is on page 39 of your packet. We are skipping ahead a lot, so I will explain to you about how we are skipping 5.10 and 5.11 as far as the lecture goes. It's still important stuff, but I think we'll be able to cover it within all these other units that we're working on right now. Okay, so let's get started. So human use of resources without depletion of the resource for future generations is another way of saying sustainability. And I like the simple thing, using something without using it up. Sustainability or conservation or any of these environmental terms, it doesn't mean stop using things altogether. Just don't do it. No, you got to sit in the dark and eat celery. It's using it without using it up. So that takes an understanding of how things reproduce, how things exist, how the world works, how the earth works, how living things reproduce. So using a resource without using it up, that's what sustainability is. So you can use either one of those terms, okay? And it's all of these all together. So there's this core set of global environmental indicators. So we have to be concerned about the energy usage, the atmosphere pollution, biodiversity loss, ozone depletion, forestry management, freshwater management, management of the oceans and aquaculture, and then it's just general governance, okay? So the entire world has to work together to balance these things because this is not just an individual issue, it's a global issue to be sustainable for the whole world. So global indicators that can guide humans to sustainability are there's going to be 5 specific things, and you're going to fill them in on your note taking right here. So biological diversity is number 1. We love our biodiversity. We love our diversity. Diversity makes us stronger. Cultural diversity and biodiversity. So extinction rates are much higher than the background extinction rate. So there's always going to be extinctions. That's just simple evolution. But because of human involvement, the extinction rates are much higher. So genetic diversity is on decline, and the outlook is that extinctions are going to continue. So for the indicator, you can write biological diversity, and for the recent trends and outlook, you can write these 3 bullet points down. Okay, so you can pause this if you need to take a little more time. I'm going to keep going. All right, food production is the next indicator. So per capita production is possibly leveling off, and it's kind of unclear. This has a lot to do with new methods of producing food, perhaps some more genetic modifications, all that kind of stuff we were talking about before. And so per capita, I wanted to make sure you guys know per capita means per person. Okay, so we are making more food, but are we getting it to each person? So per capita production, we're probably getting to a leveling off there, that we're not going to be able to produce more food per person, but that balance between how many people there are and how much food's being produced is unclear. So then the average global surface temperature and CO2 concentration, carbon dioxide concentration, is increasing. It will continue to increase, at least in the short term, until we really make a concerted effort to decreasing the amount of carbon that we're putting into the air. So this is an ongoing big thing, and it is an important environmental indicator towards sustainability. Got to get this under control. The human population is another indicator. So it's still increasing, but the growth rate has decreased and the population is leveling off. So this is everything we learned about in the human population unit. It looks like this indicator is going in a direction that is going to be better for the earth. We are not continuing at that steep, like industrial revolution kind of rate of growth. We are starting to level off. Resource depletion is the next indicator, and this is rapid depletion for many. There's lots and lots of our resources that we are depleting. Human ingenuity develops new resources, perhaps, and then the efficiency of use is increasing in some places, but this is sort of unknown. So if we're getting more efficient, then we will slow down our resource use, but it's not, we're looking like we are still depleting resources, and we're seeing that with so many different places. There's very specific things about how we've lost in whole resources. There's places you can't be fishermen anymore. There's places you can't be a logger anymore because we've completely overfished or overlogged those things. And I'll talk about those examples in class too. So now we get to this idea of maximum sustainable yield. How can we use something without using it up? Well, you need to know what is the maximum amount of stuff that you can take that will continue to yield that resource in the future. So this is maximum sustainable yield, MSY. So it's the maximum amount of a resource that can be harvested without compromising the future availability of that resource. The maximum harvest that will be replaced by population growth. Remember the fishing lab, right? So you could take to, get to, take to, get to. That's this idea of maximum sustainable yield. And on a little activity like what we did in class with the fishing activity, for the tragedy of the commons, right? It's a tragedy if you don't have if you don't have the sustainable yield. And you want the maximum sustainable yield because you do want that resource. If we just didn't use it at all, it would stick around and it would be in balance with everything else in a regular ecosystem. But people do need to use these resources. We want to use timber, we want to eat meat. We just want to do it in a sustainable way, okay? So this is the graph that you should be filling in. So you guys are going to label the graph on your paper here. Okay, so this is logistic growth. So you're going to have a logistic growth. So this looks like logistic growth, okay? So the maximum carrying capacity of the environment is K. The letter K is for carrying capacity. And that's what is reached at the top of this curve, okay? The maximum sustainable yield is theoretically, it's going to be right here, K divided by 2, okay? So where you're still at a logistic growth and it's about to taper off, you don't want to take this many and you don't want to take this many. You want to get as many as you can without destroying it. So with time and population, growth patterns are logistic, and you want to take half of the carrying capacity. So you're going to label those on the packet there. Oops, sorry, that one. I'm always going backwards on this stuff. Okay, so the maximum sustainable yield under logistic growth would be the annual harvest. So it's just a different way of looking at it. I mean, to me, it makes a little more sense because you can kind of see as the area under the curve. So you don't want to take out to the extreme. So if you took too many, then they'd all be gone. And if you took too few, then you weren't using your resources efficiently. Okay, so as long as you have good data about how many things are going to reproduce, then you're fine. Okay, so here's this idea, this zone of optimal effort. So if you're fishing and you take everything, then you're overfishing, and that's going to destroy the future of your fisheries. If you go out there and you only take this, I mean, not literally 3 left over, but like just enough left over, underutilizing it, then you're wasting some of the money that you could make or the resource that you could use to feed people. But if you get just right here in this sweet spot, this optimal yield where you take the maximum amount that still yields future growth. Okay, so there's problems with a true MSW. So life histories and survivorship strategies, if we don't have good data, then we can't make good predictions. Birth rates and death rates can change. What's the true carrying capacity of a system? That's always hard to know. How big of an area does something really need? And it can be very political because people want to make money. So that's why the tragedy of the commons is a problem. People are greedy and they want to take things, or they just don't know how much they can take. So we need really good science to be able to set these maximum sustainable yields. So these are the problems with a true maximum sustainable yield. Okay. And so to finish this off, I have a quote for you, which is a quote by Sylvia Earle, and she's a famous marine biologist. So if anybody's really interested in marine biology, you probably will be reading about Sylvia Earle. So so this is what she said. The concept of the maximum sustainable yield is seductive. It's defined as the greatest amount that can be taken from a self-generating wild population of animals or plants year after year while still maintaining a constant average size of the population. Or as summed up by biologist P.A. Larkin in his keynote address to the American Fisheries Society in 1976, it's an optimistic dogma that assumes that any species each year produces a harvestable surplus. And if you take that much and no more, things can go on forever. So in our simplified fishing activity, it can go on forever if you take two fish come back, take two fish come back. You could go on forever. That's just theoretical, because what if one year there's a drought? What if one year there's terrible storms? What if one year there's a huge pesticide spill and it kills off so many other things? So this is an idealistic idea, but still important. It is very important that you do at least understand as much as you can, and then have some contingency plans, have some backups to know that we always are in a precarious position with sustainability. Nature is strong and balanced, but it can't come back from us taking too much. That's maximum sustainable yield, and that's it for today. Thank you.